All right. Shalom, salama, family. Greetings, everyone. I am here streaming live on both the Covenant Awakenings and Q2UA platforms. Welcome, everyone. As you know, Q2UA is a 501c3. We are a nonprofit charity organization, and we have earned that medal, that right, that title over the almost 3 years. We'll be at 3 years in April. That's actually less than 8 weeks. And with that, we have had a lot of successes. We've also had a lot of challenges, but definitely a lot of successes. So I'll let folks come on in and get settled as I'm streaming from both locations. What I'll do here, let me do this. Hopefully I could do this. Sometimes in the background it becomes a little wonky with different things. But, it does not by any means stop the show. All right. Let me try and do this here. All right, give me a second. And I'll share this link on out. For those that would like to come on board in this special. And I have the messages um, pinned on both platforms, both channels. So we can go ahead and get started. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about here on the Q2UA platform. And again, um, as I had spoken to folks in the past, if you haven't been on the Q2A platform. The Q2A platform is our 501c3 nonprofit charity. It's a nonprofit organization. We've been around since April of 2023. April of 2023. And we have done some great works from mother newborn kits, Invest in Africa seminar. We had even delivered the container, medical shipping container to the continent. And now we are moving to bigger and better. But all these programs are still doing. It's just as we're doing these programs, the Most High continues to add a little bit, a little, a little, a little. It's little by little. And really, that's how he has worked. We didn't do things grandiose. That was a vision. That was in my thought process. Oh man, I can do this. We can work on that. We can move on this. And the reality was actually we could, but we weren't there at that time just yet. That timing was also part of a maturation process for our people learning how to work with one another in the background. So then we can support these projects that don't just serve the community out on the in the continent, but also it helps to serve our community here within the diaspora, particularly the United States. So everything that we've done, we've had to grow and learn and move these through this particular era. And I would say that shout out again to our team at Q2UA because our team in the background, they do some tremendous and phenomenal work. And if you hadn't really seen the seasons of how the work gets done, well, to be quite honest, over these last 2 years, especially looking at what was going on 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025, and now 2025, 2026, we go through this is a season where we go through a it's a transformation. These are our transformative seasons. This is a transformative time. And it always happens around wintertime. In the winter, we take a little bit of a break. We did that last year. We did that this year. And then last year, when we took a little bit of a break, we took about a couple week hiatus. We came back in the spring. That April, we were roaring. That April, we moved a shipping container. The call went out to our people to get involved. And we had an overwhelming outpour. And it took a few months because shipping a container, we hadn't done that before. We had to understand what it truly meant to move things throughout the world, what that truly meant to not just move things throughout the world, but to then sit down with our brothers and sisters at the embassy to coordinate different things. So even before even before the container was on the water, there had been a plan of how to get the container to move from Ghana to Burkina Faso. Normally speaking, even with the partner that we worked with, the partner would say and had said plenty of times that he can only drop off the container at the port. And so when we had the container dropped off at the port, it was literally no man's land. We'll get it there, but you need to coordinate the rest. And so, as that container was getting ready to land in the port of Tima in Ghana, and you can see this adventure, how that had shaped up on the Q2UA.org website. You could see the coordination that was taking place in the background. I was with my board at the time. Back, this was September. It was actually, no kidding, it was late August, right in Labor Day. And we weren't getting really many answers. And so we prayed about it. They said, Brother Karras, you need to go. So, huh? I can just manage from the background. I wasn't very happy about up and going. I do have a daytime job. And so I said, fine, if that's the case, I said, hallelujah. I said, Father, it's in your will. If I have my job back, hallelujah. If I don't have my job back, hallelujah. We're going to figure it on out, Father. You always do. You are a good Elohim. Hallelujah. So, with that, usually Ghana wants at least 2 weeks so they can process your visa. I had left in a very big rush. And I don't like to leave in rushes. I like to at least have about 2 to 3 weeks to plan, to have visas come through, to properly coordinate. And then what ended up happening was I'm thinking, okay, 2 weeks. It ended up being almost 3 weeks on the ground. And on the ground, there were many, many obstacles and challenges that we had to go through and work through. And the funny thing is that even with the container, everything was a challenge. Nothing was easy. Nothing was a, oh, well, it's just all cut plain and dried. No, none of that. There were challenges with clearance paperwork. There were challenges with paperwork to make sure that the container can get off the port, make sure that the container could actually even cross into Burkina Faso. Right before the container had even crossed over into Burkina Faso, Ghana and Burkina Faso actually had a military spat at the border, right as literally right as the container was hitting the border. The Most High was good because they had it resolved in a couple of days. It was about 48 hours. And these were costs that we had to incur because you have a driver. Those drivers, they got to get paid. On top of that, we had a very big challenge with the container. It was actually a major oversight because in the haste of all this, we we wanted to make sure that the container would stay. Unfortunately, with our vendor, they mistakenly had rented the container. And we told them that, look, we want to purchase it. Matter of fact, we were getting the numbers for all the purchases. We caught that half as soon as the container had basically left. And we asked, is there any way that we can just purchase the container? The freight company said no. So the freight company wasn't willing to work with us. A lot of things. And that still kind of puzzles my mind. But, those are some of the things that we had to look at in our lessons learned. How we make sure in these checklists, hey, we're buying that container. When I was there over in Bogadogo Hospital in September, showing you the hospital grounds, actually being on the hospital grounds and seeing, look, though that container, it's functional. It would have been used as a functional space. We may look at those types of things and say, man, is that something that you would even have at a hospital? And the reality is, not in the West. Not in the West. But when you have been engaged in making do with the bare minimum, this is something that they do not take for granted. And they can have some sort of a mixed function, multimodal function for utilizing the space to either treat folks. They could even, when what I had witnessed, they put a little makeshift AC unit in there to cool it down. So there's some sort of a waiting room. As Garth and I were there, you didn't have a waiting room over in Bogadogo University Hospital. You didn't have a reception area where people could sit and wait for the doctor to see them. If you were sick or infirmed, if you were brought there by your family, you're laying on the grass in the little pavilion areas. If your family member has to stay there overnight, those family members are responsible for changing the beddings. Yep. And the clothing of that family member if they're passed on out. See, a lot of things that we take for granted in the space of hospital operations. Well, don't you have RNs, LPNs, CPNs? Don't you have specialty care services? Don't you have folks on out there? Isn't that for the hospital staff to make sure that they have beds? They don't have beds. With what Garth and I had witnessed, they're sleeping on the tile benches. We literally take for granted what we have, and you have to understand these are the particular issues that these nations are dealing with. It's not to say that they don't want us, they don't want us there. It's not saying that. If anything, they want us there. But they also know that being there is a standard that they're not up to par with. And they're just trying to be realistic. When I went over to Burkina Faso, the last time I went to Burkina Faso was with ADDI. Shout out to Her Excellency Dr. Ericana Shion. And they put together a fantastic presentation to at least get us to and fro, to at least have lodging and accommodations. I've been in some pretty austere places, but for those that may not have ever traveled to the continent before, it's difficult to have your energy services cut off for a couple of hours. It's difficult when you aren't really able to store food that is needing to be refrigerated because, quite simply speaking, your refrigerator may not work. You may not have a cold beverage or a drink when it's in the 90s and you're sitting on a 6 or 7 story floor, well, 7 stories, where I was at, and you're sweating and you're just being comfortable with sweating, but at least you got water. Where you may have to lay on the couch because that's the only place that has the AC. Who would be able to do that? Who would be able to have the medical necessities to do that? People say, oh, we could do this and that. Yeah, okay. I saw that before. One of my first military trainings that I was on at was in a place called 29 Palms. We were on out there for, it was only 3 weeks. But I've seen a lot of people that had passed out. I saw a lot of people that had nosebleeds. I saw a lot of people that had just issues with the heat. And it wasn't just white folks. Sorry, it was black folks too. They used to joke with me and they called me Baby Huey because I had my little camelback and I consistently had the little nozzle from the camelback in my mouth where I was just consistently drinking water, sweating and drinking, sweating and drinking. But I saw a lot of people getting woozy. I saw a lot of people going down for a base that was literally condemned by the Army back in the 50s and 60s that the Marine Corps had taken over. And every day was a Black Flag Day for those that may or may not know about extreme heat and weather conditions. Yeah, it was a dry heat, but if you're not used to a dry heat, that still was like over 100 degrees. I'm not from Southern California. It can mess you on up. Same in Burkina Faso. For Burkina Faso being on the edge of the Saharan or the Sahara, Burkina Faso is weird. To me, it was just like Saudi Arabia, parts of Saudi Arabia. When I had been in the empty quarter, where it's humidity and heat in a desert atmosphere. I had experienced that a couple times. That's how the Persian Gulf area goes. You have heat, you have sand, and you have a little bit of thickets because it's right on the water. But then it's just sand and humidity and moisture. No, it's actually not far from Death Valley, Brother Todd. It's actually right on the edge of Death Valley. Yeah, because again, a lot of people are like, oh, this isn't that bad, and folks would try to PT on out there, do physical training. I can run 5 miles. They would run and they literally would pass out. I wasn't really sweating at all. And then you see the salt stains. And the next thing they know, they were literally getting heat sick. I had the same thing happen. I had to go on out there to the desert, to the empty quarter on an assignment. And the people that we were with, because of the heat being so oppressive and the humidity being so oppressive, these folks couldn't even survive 30 minutes. They're like, this is too much. They'd be on out doing what they need to do, and then they had to run right into the buildings. And that was a long day. That was about a 20-hour day. The very next day we had to get up. I was one of the first people on up. I'm used to stuff like that. I'm here in Florida. I'm used to the heat. I could be in the heat all day. In the summer times, I'm that weirdo. It's me and Ray. We're just walking. And them folks would stop. Does your dog need water? My dog is good. He's used to this. He's good. So now imagine that heat and imagine you go down for an illness. You go down and you don't even have central air. You're waving or you're getting waved, fanned by your family members to make sure that they can keep your body temperature down while you're in a waiting room that doesn't have any AC. The only air that you have is a faint breeze from the open windows. There's no self contained air, there's no HVAC systems. The only type of hospital services that you get are from people, their quote unquote staff that's constantly sweeping the floor so they can get the sand out. This isn't to make you feel bad about the conditions that we have in the West. No, but it is for our people to understand the conditions that you will deal with in Africa, because our people romanticize things, and then when they actually get into the environment, oh whoa, I thought I was expecting something a little different. I'm just ready to go home. I'm ready to leave. I'm ready. And then guess what that does? When you're trying to engage with our brothers and sisters, they understand how uncomfortable you are. I said, at least they're not serving you any food and there's roaches on the floor and they're trying to put food, literally feed you food with their fingers and they really don't have good hygiene. I said, at least they have hygiene and at least they're not doing all that nonsense. I think our people definitely lack the understanding of the lack of resources that the continent has to rent mobile HVAC units and cargo containers. Nah, Minister Rick, that would be a great company that you could start. We have solutions, we have the understanding of what that would take, but there's a problem called logistics. You can get those little carriers here. Yeah, absolutely. Problem is, you got to ship them there. And solutions are much more expensive. And the Chinese solution isn't necessarily the most viable solution. They have products, but a lot of their products are very inferior. It really is. American products are very good. They're just very expensive. So you can go with inferior or you can go with expensive. At the end of the day, they're like, why bother? If I waste my money on the inferior, it's going to break after a couple of goes. The product that works, their price point is so beyond them, they can't even attain it. This is the reality of the continent. They understand their problems now. Burkina Faso, they understand their problems. And they understand it so well that they realize that they have to manage their resources. And in the process of managing their resources, now they're doing something extraordinary. They're now manufacturing. They're now investing in their engineers. But they also know, and this was awesome to see this and being involved with the Ministry of Health over in Burkina Faso. They know their strategy. It's a great strategy. It's thorough. It's planned out. And I'm like, I understand it. I can regurgitate that strategy because it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense of how you have to deal with your medical first folks. You have to make sure you have healthy bodies. For them, then it's security. We don't do anything with security. I don't feel like being a mercenary. That complicates things a whole lot more. Nonprofit charity mercenaries. Oh boy. Let's just say the next time I travel and that label or stigma were on me, you will probably not see me again. But then education, and then from education, innovation, engineering. It's logistics. It all stems, it all flows together to have not just good governance, but great governance. A governance that does what? That focuses on the people. A governance that does what? That focuses not just on the people, but livelihood, on a real economy. If I may be so frank on the Q2UA channel, you want to know why this economy is failing? Because it's not a real economy. Oh, well, the banks and the bank crisis and financials, why is that? Because nobody's trying to move money. And now people have liquidity, and now all of a sudden, we figured on out that our economy is terrible. Okay. I think that's a bit disingenuous because we've been saying that for a couple of years. No, they wanted to listen to their lies. And now their lives are costing them. And now you're now hearing stories on Times of India, Hindustan Times, First Post, and other publications from outside of the West. And it's showing how the French are literally, their economy is dying. Their livelihood is dead. Their nation is like literally about to fall. Look at what's happening with the protests in Italy, in Milan. The protest with the Olympics. Oh, they're mad. How are you going to spend all this money for the Olympics, but yet you got money for the Olympics, you got money for Ukraine, but you don't have money for anything else? Remember, Europe doesn't have the resources. And every single day, as these African nations are saying, wait a second, what about my people? Wait a second, what about my people that are in a bad way? What's your solution? And now the solutions that they used to have of, well, don't worry about them. That's not going to fly anymore. You see that happening. You see that happening in South Africa with Ramaphosa. You need to be giving. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. You need to be right. All the dictates that the West has always imposed, it doesn't have that power anymore. Have you noticed that the powerful are now becoming powerless? The messaging that they once had is no longer viable or effective. They've lost the narrative. And that is truly scary. Well, we're going to do military aid. We're going to do military this, military that. We're going to bring in troops to do what? This is their, if you didn't know, this is their literal last hurrah of destabilization on the continent. I don't know if people really understand that. This is their last breath of destabilization. And for those countries that allow the West to come in to do the destabilization efforts, give them grace. Give them grace. Because there's a reason for this. Sometimes you have to let everything play out. Sometimes you have to let the system wear itself out. Okay. Do what you think you can do. Okay. When you know that something is on its last legs, when you know that the animal is injured, what they're trying to not do is provoke the animal. They're just looking. They're like, okay, can we wait these 90 days? Can we wait until it gets nice and sunny and bright and warm enough for these folks here in the West to get out of their slumber and realize that they've lost their jobs, to realize that they have nothing left? Because when they have to start fighting themselves, then guess what? They'll start to leave us alone. If you've noticed, that's the standoff that is happening all throughout the world. If you've noticed, the narrative's always changing on Iran. Oh, they're going to go to war. Well, they're going to back down. Oh, they're going to war. Oh, they're going to back. Because why? Because they're in confusion. They're in confusion because why? It's the same confusion that they have with us. Are you going to go on out there and are you going to change what's happening in America? Or aren't you going to go on out there? That's not my job description. Truthfully speaking, we're technically still not even American citizens fully. Truthfully speaking, I don't know about you, but I've never seen any legislature that brings us up from 3/5 to, a whole. So we're well within our rights to sit the rest of our 40% selves down. Hey, I'm not going to get sucked in. We don't have time for that. We can't afford that. Matter of fact, you all destroyed this. All we're trying to do is we're trying to build. We're trying to do these projects on out here on the continent, and that's starting with the hospital project initiative. We're trying to show our brothers and sisters that we care, not that we're scared and we need to. That doesn't do anything. The reality is that if you're scary and that you don't have a plan in terms of how having a strategic understanding of how to support, then how are you going to be good to actually help people? Because that complaint cycle doesn't stop when you get on the plane. Oh, I'm in the continent. Oh, that's great. Until the luster and allure wears off. And then you come to reality that your water is probably poisoned. You come to the reality that you ain't got the energy and it's cycled every 12 hours or 18 hours if you're lucky enough. They're asking us to do. Because if you have the same complaints here without having solutions here, you're not going to have any solutions on the ground over on the continent. I don't know if you realize, but a lot of our brothers and sisters, they see us. They know about these channels. They know who Q2UA is. They listen. They understand. They're catching these broadcasts and these replays. They're seeing these initiatives. They're seeing these projects. But they have to ask themselves, are we worthy that they would then spend their resources on getting things done? Do we do we have the sweat equity and coming up with 400,000 to get this project started? 400,000 to start the project. 400,000. That's it. Can our community rally to talk to other people within our community? They want to talk about, oh, well, we need to have policies for citizenship and permanent residency and everything else. What do you think this does? The other folks are on over there. Them folks, the other folks are on over there. You want to know why they were able to get all these visas on demand and all this other stuff? It was quite simple. They could go back and they could say, well, look at what we built here. Look at what we've done here. Look at what we've established here. Look at what we've created here. Look at the income that we generated. Yeah, and they do that. They do that. I guarantee you that Paul's and Ghanaian citizenship, it wasn't affecting them. I guarantee you it was not. This should really be an indictment for all of us. Is this system going to maintain and sustain? If you believe it, keep your funds. Don't even come on over here. I'd rather you go to somewhere else that believes in this system. Enjoy yourself. Have a great time being asleep. But if you know that being able to have this relationship on the continent and you know what the worth and the value is going to be for generations to come, then I thank you. I thank you for seeing this vision. I thank you for understanding this strategic understanding, the strategic value, the strategic benefits. Them folks know about strategic value and benefits, and guess what they do? They don't teach you. They don't. Why do they need to teach you about strategic value and strategic benefits? If you didn't know, you're just a step up from being chattel. And I know a lot of you all don't believe me, but guess what? I see it every single day in this quote unquote education system, if you want to call it that. No, it's not. It's just chattel management. You know enough that you can read, do a little bit of equations, and that you're in a workforce. They're not trying to have you do anything other than that. And now that they're taking that away, then what are your options? Well, I can probably name a couple of options that you may not like. That our ancestors had gone through that deals with something called the delectable Negro. I'm just being honest. Those are facts. That's historical facts. Until AI erases it or changes it in an oh so subtle manner that our people don't realize, and then they get miseducated. They get the indoctrination. Oh no, we weren't slaves. We were just workers. Do you see that? I had to realize at the moment that they were so blatant in their miseducation, that was the moment that you realized their system isn't long for this side of the grave. What we're asking for is that our people lend their voices to support this. That's the way that the continent goes. That's the way that Africa goes. It's also the same way as how our people respond. If they see it happening, then guess what? Everybody starts to jump on board. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I was in here. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. And I get it. There was only a small group of people that supported the container, less than 200 people. But that less than 200 people got things done. It accomplished the mission. Understand, this isn't going to be done by a lot of people. It's not. I don't know what word you have been reading, but whenever the Most High does something extraordinary, he only uses a small handful of people. Think about David with Ziklag. He had to stretch those forces thin so they could recover their families. A lot of people get weary. A lot of people start to fall off the mission. A lot of people say, I'm exhausted. I can't do this. I love my family, but I can't do it. I'm exhausted. Even with Gideon, he started with thousands of warriors and it got reduced to 300 people. The mighty isn't just mighty physically, this is a spiritual might. And you know what the craziest thing is? Do you know that we were up in these churches and we were providing all of our spiritual might? Do you know about Jesus? Let me tell you about Jesus. Jesus loves you. Let me tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you. Can you help support us on a hospital project? That's okay. Because I know, just like what the world is going through right now, when they have the truth right in front of them, they can't even understand that it's the truth. You saw that all this week. You even had major figures in the government testifying and being asked questions regarding these despicable and horrendous acts. And then it was a deflection, deflection, deflection. Because why? Because that is what they've done to us for over 400 years. They perfected it with us. Now they're going to perfect it with them. I just pray that our people are starting to understand and realize that we literally have options. And you want to know what? That's what scares them the most. This algorithm is not going to want to have the hospital project initiative. It dies. Understand what they're doing to TikTok, to Discord, and all these other places. You want to know what they're doing? It's just a subversive way to target our channels. That's it. Well, you're not going to grow. You're not going to grow. You're on this platform. You're not going to grow. What do we do? What do we say? Well, you didn't do anything. You didn't say anything bad. You're just not going to get picked up by the algorithm. Gee, surprise, surprise. Same thing that they've been doing to us for over 400 years. And you think that towards the end of this captivity, it's going to be even different? It's going to be different? No. I laugh because I know everything that we do is hard. Everything that we do is difficult. But isn't that what it's supposed to be? Our hands aren't slack. Neither is our voice. Like I had said earlier last year, bring your voices. Do you know with our voice and moving that container, do you know that this is where we're at right now? To be personally invited to do this. This doesn't just have regional and national implications. This has implications for the whole continent. Do you really think that they're going to broadcast that? Oh wow, like for the whole oh, this reaches in different places. Yes, it does. I've explained that to you. I've explained it to our volunteers. I've explained what this does. And they absolutely hate it. And they hate it, especially as the trolls start to come in. Understand, a couple of weeks ago, those trolls were heated because there was something going on that they could see, that they could feel, but they couldn't control. Our brothers and sisters paying attention to each other by a social media influencer that had visited the continent. And they know that when that happens, they have to shut that algorithm down. We're riding the stream of that algorithm. Go ahead and share this. Go ahead and post this. Do an at iShowSpeed. Do an at KSI. Do an at whatever major social media influencer. They'll be swarming on in, trying their best to claw away, trying their best to tear this down. Do you want to know how many times they were trying to tear down the shipping container? All the things that we were going through in the background. I don't even speak to that because I'm not trying to give them any power. But guess what? They didn't have the power. And they were mad. All they could see was a shipping container being loaded up and pulling off. And then all they could see was our brothers and sisters in Burkina Faso receiving the container, receiving the shipment. We have projects for days. We do. We have opportunities for days. I can't do these by myself. We can't do this by ourselves. We have to do this as a people. We have to come together. And family, I know that's hard. Trust me, I know. Well, what about this? Or what about this? Or what about look, one step after the other. And we're going to make it and we're going to succeed. And then when all expectations have been exceeded, then guess what? It's the walk stage. We're here walking. We're just walking. There's going to be a stage where the Most High is going to have us sprinting. But you want to know why we're at this walk stage? Because there are a lot of our people that are still very, very uncomfortable, that are still very, very unsure, lacking the confidence to actually walk. Our people are at the toddler stage. You can say enough, you can do enough, but you're really not quite there. And that's okay. Because that is where the Most High is able to cover our deficiencies. All of us. If you're not confident in speaking, hey, thank you, Father. I'm not confident in speaking, But Father, as I speak, let your voice make an impact on the people that I'm talking to about this, about that. You just can't be a hearer of the word. You're also commanded to be a doer. You want to know the greatest hypocrisy? Take a look at them files. That's the greatest hypocrisy. Think about that. I'm telling you, the Most High hates hypocrites. He hates them. Do you see the hypocrisy of this nation? We have to be able to be confident. I do believe that the Most High has given us everything that we're asking for right now. Because you want to know why? Because they've been exposed. All we have to do is literally just open our mouths. That's it. Oh, yep, yep. I got you. Yeah, yeah. Uh huh. I was watching something earlier today. It caught my eye. It was on the Times of India. I was like, okay, let me take a look. In Iran, and you have to be very careful with the Times of India. They're very, very deceptive. They are. They're on this like playing to both sides of the fence. And I'll go and I won't elaborate anymore. But what they were showing, they showed the obelisk, and then they showed in front of the obelisk the man bull, which represents Baal and Moloch, the gods of Canaan. And understand they were then throwing things at that effigy, and then they ultimately burned the effigy. And what was stated was because of the files, they were shouting death to a particular nation. But here's the heart of the matter. Don't think it was just that Eastern Mediterranean nation that they were shouting and demonstrating against. The interesting thing about all this was a couple of days ago, Sergei Lavrov had stated to the effect of this paraphrase that the USA was controlled in the West or controlled by a bunch of Satanists. And then this YouTuber, I forgot what her name is. It's just, I believe a Lucy Abigail, if I'm not mistaken. Or Abigail Lucy Marie. She had a video. And in that video, she was literally talking about how Vladimir Putin's name had come up about 1,000 times. And if you know anything about databases, data migration, meta tags, or meta tagging and metadata and things of that nature, that's not going to be anything that's on out there, especially if your name has hits, especially if you're a world leader. But this was a Sky News report, and the Sky News report obviously very being very disingenuous that she was showing and referencing. Because the reality was these people were mad that they could not have or they could not engage Russia. And have that particular person that these files were centered on. This person was not able to use their tentacles of power to have a meeting. And you know, the funny thing is, I was looking at that and I was just in my spirit, it came on up. Resist the devil and he shall flee. And Abigail Marie had basically talked about, well, you know, in 2021, when Putin was showing the iconography, knowing that black people are the Israelites, knowing who we are, all hell had broken loose. And this was something that I had covered on Covenant Awakenings. But it was just interesting that you had another YouTuber having the same commentary. And I thought that that was interesting. It's interesting because right now, the whole world is in damage control. It's interesting because right now we're coming together as a people so we can start in on this hospital. Shalom, salama, brother Fast Nickel. How are we doing?
Shalom, shalama. It's very interesting. What you're saying. I don't know. I happened to see this last night. So if you remember, back 2 years ago when they had the Summer Olympics, there was all the outrage about the satanic stuff that was going on during the Olympics, and now with this one, I think it was during the opening ceremony. They had a whole pentagram. So I mean, everything where you go is satanic.
Yeah, you know, it's you're seeing the system telling on itself. You're seeing everything telling on itself. And as I stated, look, on this channel, this platform, again, we are 501c3. We just have to operate within the confines. Sorry, that's it. And we have to operate with wisdom within these confines. That's what we do. That's how we maneuver. But I pray that our people are starting to see in this system does not have your back. This system does not have the best for you.
Mm-mm.
This system is crumbling because this system is showing itself. It is showing itself. Now, as this system's crumbling, then guess what? We're coming back together. We're learning how to work with one another. We're learning actually how to simply trust one another. So, with that, I'm going to have a world premiere. World premiere. Da-da-da-da-da.
Woohoo!
All right. Here we go.
Every journey begins with a simple act of care. For Quest to Unite Africa, that journey started with something simple: a mother, a newborn, and a promise that no life would be forgotten. We did not begin with buildings, we began with people. We packed mother newborn kits with our own hands because real change starts where the need is greatest. Those kids traveled farther than we imagined, and they opened our eyes to a deeper truth. Aid saves lives, but infrastructure saves generations. So we grew. Together with donors, volunteers, and partners, we sent a medical container to Burkina Faso. Not just supplies, but hope. Not just boxes, but proof that when a community comes together, healing moves across borders. That moment changed us because we realized something powerful. We weren't just delivering help, we were building a future. Now the journey continues. The next chapter is bigger than a shipment, bigger than a campaign. We are raising funds to build a state-of-the-art hospital, a place where mothers can give birth safely, where families can find care close to home, and where communities can grow stronger for generations to come. This hospital is not just a structure, it's a promise. A promise that healthcare will no longer be temporary. A promise that dignity will have a permanent home. And just like every step before, we cannot do this alone. Every gift, every brick, every name placed on the founder path becomes part of a story that began with compassion and is growing into legacy. It helps us move from emergency aid to lasting healing, from containers to care that never leaves, from vision to reality. Join us, stand with us, help us build a hospital that will serve generations, moving healthcare into action. Visit Q2UA.org today.
Kudos. Shout out to our Q2A family for putting that together. Thank you, brother Fats Nickel. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, me and Coco and I, we worked on that and got that going.
that that is pretty good. Look, behind the scenes, I try not to crack the whip, but like, can you make this change? Can you make that change? Can you do this? Can you do that? Like, everything looks good, but I need this. I need that. Oh, that's perfect. That was perfect. And that's a blessing.
Well, when you were talking about the hospital, because I caught some of it, and because I remember when you and Garth went over to the continent, and you were saying that the hospital there was built in 2016, but it was lacking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that with this project, we want to make sure that that's not the case. And so
So let me mute you, Rich. There you go. Yeah, go ahead, brother Fast Nickel.
yeah, we want to make sure that that is not the case, so that we have all the world class amenities needed for our people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is, look, they built the infrastructure, but they built the infrastructure in a way to sabotage the infrastructure. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, hey, I built you something, but if they know that that thing's going to crumble in 15, 20 years, what did you really build?
Right.
And what we have been working, who we've been working with behind the scenes, they're building for generations to come. For generations to come. This is a legacy. As was explained in the video, every time you donate, for those that are donating $100 or more, you have a chance to have your name in something historical with a foundation brick. That brick will be on the foundation path. So as people are entering the hospital, they can see who was there that helped support this effort. Those that have contributed, their names will be etched in the brick. And that brick will be laid.
And now you've
For,
left a legacy.
and you've left the legacy. That's the same thing that you see with most hospitals. For those that are giving 1,000 or more, their name will be on the foundation wall. The foundation wall will be within the foyer where we're going to have a nice waterfall. I like waterfalls, right? But then in the bronze, as you see with many other buildings, for those that have donated 1,000 or more, their name will be etched into that foundation wall. For those that want to, that are willing and blessed to be able to give 10,000 or more, we'll create a plaque. And that plaque will have a few words that that donor can then select so that their legacy is shown, that it can be read by those that are visiting the hospital of what that dedication really means. For those that are donating 100,000 or more, they'll have a room dedicated. A room of that hospital will be dedicated. So if you're a person or an organization, you would be able to show your commitment to this project. And when this project is completed, you'll be able to show the legacy of supporting that patient, those patients. For those at a, here's a big one. For those at $1 million or more, we will be dedicating a floor of the hospital. The hospital is then there to support with that floor, it will support that legacy. And it shows the commitment and the trust that when that hospital is built, those floors and then eventually those wings, because the hospital will expand. This first phase is to make sure we have all of the generalized services and some of the specialized services to ensure that it's meeting the needs of that community and will be expandable to meet the needs of the community as it continues to grow. This community will grow because there's a lot of support that comes along with the hospital. You can find all of these here at Q2UA.org. And I'm sure that there's someone that's able to support at least those 5 tiers. And we need your support today. And I pray that you are able to show someone what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, and that you can show that person, that group, that organization why this is worthwhile. So I do have
Especially
this.
since most of
Go
our
ahead. Go
sorry,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, especially since most of our members and the listeners, all their plans are to go to the continent. So why not have world class amenities while you're there?
Well, brother Karis, kind of, I like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
I went to the site, and I'm not the most techie person, I'm kind of boomer generation stuff, but you got the Apple Pay on there, and it occurred to me, if you're giving an event, a large amount of people or something, your church or something like that. I mean, I've got video projectors or something like that. You can let them know, go to the site and I clicked on Apple Pay. I had never donated on that on your site before. So, we mostly carry a lot of those phones and stuff like that, and you have a room full of people for an event. Yeah, we like you to go to so and so and so and so Q2UA.org and just hit on Apple Pay to note, when you have a form in front of people automatically, you're at an event to do this to help. This is something we request for that. So that I think that's an option. I'm gonna secure because we're gonna do some things. So I just want to put that out there. I had never seen that on the website. The great fat brother Fast you responsible for putting that tech on there, but I appreciated that. It was easier for me than to just go through PayPal and the other methods or bring out the credit card to just click on the other phone just while this podcast was on.
Well,
Hallelujah.
I can't take credit for that because that's all part of the
I think give WP. That's
payment
give WP.
payment. Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
part of the payment system that they add Apple Pay
Mhm.
and Google Pay. So
Yeah.
if you're on an Android, it'll come up. But that happens when you're using your phone. But you know, we want to make everything as easy as possible for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is let me tell you how awesome this is. We do have a very supportive chief, the regional king. They are very supportive of this. This has implications farther and much more reaching. I want to I want to say more. However, I'm technically not allowed to as of yet, as of this moment. Because again, the more we do, the more then that they can do for us. Hint, hint. Foot stop, foot stop. I mean, I can't say anymore because obviously we have folks that are here that will try to denigrate the message and try to sour and do everything else. We're just living in that generation. And for those that would like to come on here, I'm going to tell you this. This is for an environment that's a positive environment because this is here to support the Hospital Project Initiative. I'm not going to deal with any foolishness. That's not happening today. You can catch me on Monday with Covenant Awakenings. This is the Q2UA special, the Hospital Project Initiative. Anything else and any other agendas, you're not having that platform today, not on these channels. Sorry.
Brother Karras, Ecclesiastes 10:19. Uh, a feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
could, we could, we spend money on entertainment and all these other things like that, but money answers all things. I think there's another section where the word says, uh, uh, it talks about the love of money. It always says, make money your friend. Don't make it your savior. So we have to get on board. My juices are flowing now. We just have to get on board and get on this thing like the container. And we did it before. We can do this. We can do this. I mean, I'm very much excited.
And how we get on board, look, it's going to take, and I look at it like this. There's 86 people. We fluctuate between 94 and 90 something. And, I'm going to tell you, if this was more provocative, if we had keywords up in there with like, at such and such, to have that provocation, well, then guess what? There would be more people on in here because why? Because everybody has itching ears. Everybody. Now, the craziest thing about the continent, I'm going to tell you this. They have more wealth than what you and I could even imagine. They want health. Health is wealth. I it's so simple, but it's really so hard to fathom because we live in such a selfish and perverse society. It's not even funny. Oh, you could just throw a hospital up like this and that. Yeah, yeah, they could. The problem is, if you think about this, they literally and it's everybody's ignorance. We were in ignorance at one point in time. We all were. They know that their contracts, quote unquote, is making them poor. They can't tell you that. Why can't you just build a hospital yourself? We contracted ourselves into being poor. That's the brutal reality. And when you actually understand the reality, that reality is not going to come from certain places. It's going to come from, honestly, what you hear in the Sahel. It's going to come from these press conferences of what was just happening in Niger, where they had kicked out French forces because they knew that those were destabilization operations. You don't have your military in places unless they're there to do covert operations that will destabilize. So then that can continue to bring down your country. All the while, they're going to smile in your face and have the knife behind their back. That's how that goes. But guess what they were doing? They were actually articulating the problem. See, when you can start to articulate the problem, guess what? You can then start to say, well, if that was the problem, well, here's the solution. We don't have might in our hand to do anything. We're here in captivity. I'm sorry. If you didn't know that, we're here in captivity. We have no power in our hand. But what we can do, we can build. That's actually the edict that we've been given. We can build. What? Yes. The question is, we need to have people to build with us. See, when you start to understand and see how things have moved, where things are moving, then we're able to be in places and spaces that, quite frankly, they didn't want us in.
Brother Karis,
Yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
you know I'm a scripture person. I'm looking at Luke 16:9 in the New Living Trans Station. Here's the lesson: use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. It just makes so much sense. It's beneficial. It's a good thing, but it's also prudent in our situation.
Hallelujah. Now, this is going to be a lot different than the container. The container was more so a little bit more open ended because of our partnership, our strategic partnership with the vendor. This project, this initiative, for us raising the capital, the deadline is March 31st. This is very time sensitive. We don't have time to sit on this because March 31st is going to be here and gone. I pray that when it's gone, that we're already moving on to doing other things towards this hospital project initiative. That we've not just met our goal, but we've exceeded it. That we start in on our processes of getting the ball rolling with the planning committees that we've been working with in the background to ensuring that those vendors and contractors are ready to move and are ready to move quickly and efficiently. So again, this is something that we have to do as a community. I will email that to you, Pastor Rick Fletcher. Sure, no problem. I am forwarding that email to you as we speak.
It's so simple, Karis. I think, and very briefly, I mean, we have what passes for money right now, and no ground, no ownership of land, no ground here. and they need help there, which our money can help, but they got gold, real money in the ground on the continent. And anything we can do is to help our transition. Hey, it just make me understand why we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this.
I can't get into details like that. But look, I'm going to tell you this. Let's use our analytical, most high Yah given understanding and logic of what this truly means. And yes, there is a Facebook page. I know our people have been updating this on Facebook. We're still getting things together with TikTok. We have our Q2UA Facebook page. Let me see if I can share this. Can I share this page?
Remember, everyone who goes to Q2A.org, they'll see the social media icons in the navigation and in the footer.
Yeah, I'm just kind of. I'm not gonna lie. I am not very. Mm. It is on Facebook. You can find it at Q2UA. I think let me show you this. Give me just a second. Let me share this screen so you can see we have revamped our social media. Here is what the page will look like on Facebook. You can find that on Q2UA. Q2UA. We have our Facebook page. We even have our Instagram. We're doing it over here. We're doing it big over here. We are moving. And as we continue to move, as we continue to grow, the Most High is knocking things on out for us. So it's not a question of if. This is when. It's not a question of if. And truly, I thank the Most High that we are able to do everything that He has placed on our heart. So again, March 31st is that deadline. This is it's up to us. Can we do it? You know we can. You know we can. You know how mighty we are. You know how mighty He is. All we got to do is just talk, and guess what? You already know the Most High will take care of the rest. That's it.
All praises to the Most High.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So with that said, I'll let you all have any final words before I close down shop today.
Well, this is the next exciting track, a chapter in our journey. And uh,
Brother Richard, you want to go or you want me to go?
you go, you go, go. Uh, Brother
Eh,
Fascinator, I don't know. Did that came through right? Did you hear me?
yeah, he's on mute.
Oh,
You muted yourself, brother Fastnickle. Brother Fastnickle, you're still on mute.
I think his phone may be interfering with the stream yard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. He went off. All right. Go ahead, brother Rich. Brother Rich, go ahead. Uh, Final words, comments.
It happens to me sometimes. Not sure. Oh, now I'm frozen. Am I frozen?
Oh boy. Did they get to this? Let me give me a second. Give us a one if you can still hear us
Just one.
in the chat. Give us a one if you can still hear us in the chat. Okay. They can still hear us. Go ahead. Go ahead, brother Rich. Okay, well. Okay. Well, I guess it's just me. All right. Well, thank you, brother Rich. Thank you, brother Fast Nickel, for jumping on. This has been really a pleasure. This has been it's been awesome to work with you all, to fellowship with you all, to flow with you all. If you would like to see a copy of the video, that video is up on our websites. It's also on Facebook, so you're able to get a copy of that. Thank you again to all of our Q2UA volunteers. The amount of work that they do in the background is truly amazing. So I never want to understate what they contribute to this mission, and also what you all contribute to the mission on the day-to-day operations. This is what helps us to do what we do, to have these resources so that we have the ability to function. And the more that we're able to function, the more that you can see us be effective in a time where we're literally living in gross darkness. And your support helps us to be that light. So, with that said, family, I will be back for all of my Covenant Awakening folks. I'll be back on Monday. We will obviously have a longer stream. We'll open up, and if there's any concerns or things of that nature, you can visit on Monday for the Covenant Awakenings. I usually tend to allow the ignorance on that platform. Not over here at Q2A. Sorry. You all see and understand what's at stake here. So with that said, family, you all be blessed. And with that, take care.